you notice there's a lot of Scott Joplin on the program, which is as it should be. And Brad and I actually have a nice special connection to Scott Joplin. When he died, he was buried in one of the many cemeteries in Queens, New York, in an unmarked grave. And some years later, people did put a marker there. But a few years ago, some of our colleagues who also love this music got a bunch of us to contribute to place a bench on his grave as another permanent marker. And so Brad and I were amongst the people who contributed to that being there. And so it's nice to have that little extra connection to Scott Joplin. Anyhow, the next song really fits the cliche. It needs no introduction. Ragtime became so popular that people were writing songs about it. And it's inevitable that Irving Berlin joined the crowd that did it. And so here it is, and you'll hear the rarely sung second verse today, too. Oh my honey, better hurry and let's meander. Ain't you going to the leader man, ragged meter man? Oh my honey, let me take you to Alexander's grandstand brass band. Ain't you coming along? Come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Come on in here, it's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band whatever. Honeyland, come on along, let me take you by the hand. Up to the man, who is the leader of the band. And if you care to hear the Swanee River played in ragtime, come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Oh my honey, there's a fiddle with notes that screeches like a chicken, and the clarinet is a noisy pet. Come and listen to a classical band. What's peaches come now somehow? Better hurry along. Come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band. Come on in here, it's the best band in the land. They can play a bugle call like you never heard before. So natural that you want to go to war. That's just the bestest band whatever. Oh my honeyland, come on along, let me take you by the hand. Up to the man, who is the leader of the band. And if you care to hear that Swanee River play in ragtime, come on in here, Alexander's ragtime band.
So let me give you some additional information about this program and about Alexander's. And I don't think you want to stand there for the next hour.
No, I don't. So I'm going to just, when they vacate a chair, I'll sit over
That's
there.
right.
Stay put.
Again, we love it. We just love it. We love that so many people came out. You know, we've had 2 years of not having concerts or doing anything and sitting at home watching them on Zoom, and it's not the same thing. I think everyone here agrees with that. So this program was actually planned for the spring of 2020. But of course the pandemic came around, and then in 2021 we thought no, pandemic was still around. And then of course here we are in another surge, and it just almost didn't come around, but damn it, we're doing it anyway. So this program is a true demonstration of all the different types of ragtime there are. I mean, you think of ragtime as perhaps being the entertainer and maybe the maple leaf rag. But there's so much else. Ben just did a rag song, and one interesting thing about that song, it was written in 1911, and it was such a big hit that when people would go to auditions for shows, so many people did it that the producer started saying, no, you can't sing this song. The interesting thing is that it came a decade after the true ragtime craze, which was set closer to around 1900 and even a little before. The thing about Alexander's Ragtime Band is we like to think, for those of us who have any sort of a musical knowledge, that ragtime is all about what's called syncopation. It's where basically, simplistically, where notes sort of shift the beat a little. And Alexander's Ragtime Band doesn't have one note of syncopation in it. Come on in here, come on in here. It's right on the beat every time. But it's become so indelibly linked with ragtime because it's Alexander's Ragtime Band that we think of it as one of the ultimate ragtime songs.
Well, and an irony is that Berlin initially didn't think much of the song, but he changed his tune when the income happened.
That's right. Yeah. And so across this program, we're going to be doing Joplin and some other composers, and we're going to show you what ragtime really is. It's not just about Scott Joplin or Irving Berlin. It doesn't have just one sound. It has many sounds. And so our next piece is called Easy Winners, and where the first two had this sort of happy drive, this is very laid back and very easy. So the next rag is not a Joplin rag. It's a rag by someone named Joseph Lamb, who came out of the ragtime tradition, and he almost missed it if there ever was a period of ragtime. If you'll notice in the program, he died in 1960. Ragtime Nightingale is one of his very, very interesting concert rags. Just so you know, rags have sort of a seedy backstory in that they were originally played in bordellos while other activities were going on. And they were the predecessor of jazz. They had that bass beat. So if you want to know where rock came from with that driving bass beat, blame it on ragtime, because it came straight out of that tradition all the way back. And at one point, as I mentioned in the program notes, ragtime was considered jazz. It was only when jazz sort of went far away from ragtime that they realized that ragtime, in fact, was its own period, its own genre. In the case of Ragtime Nightingale, an interesting little story about it, in that it's published under the title of the cover, which says Nightingale Rag. But yet the top of the sheet music says Ragtime Nightingale. Why? Because when the music was published, the composer would only see the music and would correct the notes and make sure the title was right. But in another department, they were making the artwork for the rag. And if someone said, so what's it called? I don't know, it has Nightingale, and it's a rag and it has Nightingale in the title. So the cover says Nightingale Rag, but the true name of the piece is Ragtime Nightingale. So now you know why there's a discrepancy, because the art department wasn't paying any attention. One of the things about this particular rag that I find very interesting is yes, you're going to hear some bird calls in it. The opening part, Joseph Lamb was a concert pianist, and the opening part, if you happen to know the Chopin Preludes, he bases the opening figure on the sixth prelude of the Chopin Preludes. Is that rag? I mean, that's very educated. But a personal story about this. So Ben and I have been performing together since 1989. Our first performance was on WGBH, and like 3 weeks later, we performed at Fallen Community Church right up the road, and that was our first concert together. And on our first concert, the opening number was Alexander's Ragtime Band. Here we are all these years later from 1989, and we're still doing it, and it's still a great song. I have yet to get bored with that song.
I agree. We still love it.
In the case of Ragtime Nightingale, that whole program was based on all Americana, not necessarily just the Great American Songbook or Ragtime, but it had a little of everything in it. And so I had 2 rags scheduled to play on that concert. One was the Ragtime Dance by Scott Joplin, and the other was the Ragtime Nightingale. But Ragtime Nightingale never made it onto that program because it was too damn long. So here we are, 1989, 2022, and I finally get to play the piece. So, and it's not even, it's written, I have to tell you, I'll just warn you ahead of time, it was written for a grand piano, and as much as I love old Bessie here, she's not a grand piano. We'll do our best. So definitely the many faces of Ragtime. As you could tell, that was very sectional. It had 3 different rags, actually, 3 different types of rags. And now we've got another one called Solace. Solace became super famous in the film The Sting, along with The Entertainer. It started the modern ragtime revival. And it's actually, the subtitle, if you'll notice in your program, is called A Mexican Serenade, because the cover has sort of a sexy woman on the front of it, and you'll hear her swaying along as we go through Solace. Ragtime is not dead. Why? The next piece we're going to play is written by a ragtime expert and composer out of New York City named Daniel Paget. It was written in 1997. I bet all of us here were born by that time, right? And Carol was the one who latched onto this. She thinks it's really beautiful, as do I. She also thinks it's unlike any of the other rags on the program. So again, new sounds, and it's still ragtime. The next piece needs no introduction, so I won't.
Tidbit about that piece. It is not about trees in Vermont or Canada. At the time Joplin wrote it, he was playing in a club called the Maple Leaf, and hence the name. Anyhow, we're going to give you another song about ragtime that is not a rag. Its distinction, in a way, is that it was the first published song by George and Ira Gershwin, and for us, it goes back almost as far back as we've been doing Alexander, so another of our old favorites. The real American folk song is a rag, a mental jag, a rhythmic taunt for the chronic blues. The critics called it a joke song, but now they've changed their tune and they like it somehow. For it's inoculated with a syncopated sort of meter. Sweeter than an old refrain. Boy, you can't refrain. Still and quiet, 'cause it's a riot. The real American folk song is like a fountain of youth. You taste and it elates you and then invigorates you. The real American folk song, a masterstroke song, is a rag. Near Barcelona, the peasant croons the old traditional Spanish tunes. The Neapolitan folk song sighs. You think of Italian skies. Each nation has a creative vein, originating a native strain, with folk songs plaintive and others gay, in their own peculiar way. American folk songs, I feel, have a much stronger appeal. The real American folk song is a rag, a mental jag, a rhythmic tonic for the chronic blues. The critics called it a joke song, but now they've changed their tune and they like it somehow. For it's inoculated with a syncopated sort of meter. Sweeter than a classic strain. Boy, you can't remain still and quiet, for it's a riot. The real American folk song is like a fountain of youth. You taste and it elates you and then invigorates you. The real American folk song, a masterstroke song, is a rag.
And now you've been sitting here an hour and it's almost over. Hopefully it went fast. But was I right that you were surprised at how many different types of ragtime there are? I mean, you know, I grew up with Maple Leaf and maybe The Entertainer, maybe Solace in the background again with the Sting, and that was sort of about it. But it has so many facets. But now we're going to go back and end with a really classic, good old Scott Joplin rag. It's called The Cascades. It too has some of its own surprises, and then it'll be over. And wasn't this better than sitting at home watching television?
Yeah.
Very good.
This I have to pull this one together. This has a lot of tricks in it.
Okay.
Okay, great.
broke the record. And you put out a record.
And before you go, let me just say, my name is George Ethel, and I sort of represent these guys. And we already know we've got a contract for another program in the fall. Keep your eyes on the newsletter, and sometime in the fall, we'll have another chance at hearing it.
And also, if you're connected with any Carlton Willard or any of the places around here, we'll bring the program there. Just get your activities director to contact.